I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on the Spotlight Network, we're journeying through Adventures in Goose Park, written by a terrific author. Her name is Debra Adams, and she has penned a wonderful, heartwarming story that follows Kiko, the valiant leader of a flock of Canadian geese, as they face challenges in their breeding grounds. This tale of leadership, teamwork, and resilience is perfect for young readers, teaching them about self-discipline and the importance of community. We're delighted to have this very talented and powerful writer join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put her in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like her by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing her amazing book. The links are below this interview. Debra, great to see you here today on Spotlight. Thanks for joining me.
It's just great to be here with you, Logan. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. Great to have you on the show. Loved your book. Such a original story. How did you come up with it?
This story is going to sound like I made it up, but it's totally true. This
Okay.
goes back over 20 years ago, and I was with some friends down in Columbus, Georgia, and
Mhm.
there is a beautiful park. It's huge, and it's like a Shangri-La type of
Mhm.
park with beautiful weeping willow trees and a very large lagoon.
Mhm.
So while we're just enjoying the weather and the surroundings and all of that, there was this large flock of geese down there,
Mhm.
and it looked like two geese were having an argument. It literally looked like that. They were like fussing at each other. I've never seen anything like this before. And each goose had its little amen corner behind him. So there was one little flock on one side and one on the other side. And so the goose that was on the right side seemed like he was the real leader because the other one was so angry. And after fussing, he took his wing and he flapped the water and splashed water right in the face of the first goose. And I'm like, they do that too.
Exactly.
So
That's
afterwards, that same goose that was so belligerent took his little amen corner group and they swam off to another part of the lagoon. And they stayed maybe nearly 15 minutes. We were out there for a while. And after a while, he came back and his little group came with him. And he went right back up to the other leader. And the other geese that were going up on the ground came back down into the water behind their leader, and they started clicking and clucking to each other softly. Never saw that before. And do you know, after whatever their little conversation was, they all turned together, and the one that was so belligerent got behind the one that he had splashed the water on, and they all went back up on land together. And
wonderful.
I forgot about it after a while, but in recent years, I'll say the last, 3 years when I started writing the book, that came back to my mind.
Yeah.
And I thought about human nature. Don't we act like that? But how
Yeah.
many of us will actually turn around and reconsider what we've done, and make amends? I
I
said,
agree.
that's a wonderful example to show, even to young people. Being
Yeah.
a teacher, go ahead.
Yeah. It's especially for young people, I think, to learn lessons that you can have disagreements, you can have differences of opinions, but at the end of the day, you all come together as a flock. And I
Yes.
think that's terrific. So it should be Adventures in Goose Park, based on a true story by Deborah Adams, in part because it was inspired by your experience in nature, which I think is wonderful. So you were a teacher for a number of years. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yes, I've been teaching about 25 years and retired. After retiring, you don't, once you're a teacher, you just don't stop teaching. You're going to do it in some capacity, some kind of way. Those skills are going to be used until we take our last breath. So after leaving the classroom, I enjoyed myself for a little while because, we have to have a recovery time.
Sure, you take that break, you take that a
Right. We
vacation,
took
but
the break for a
yeah,
few years, but then I started getting antsy. I need to get back into it
yeah.
some kind of way. And I began to write
Mhm.
stories. and even books that help with phonics, because I knew my students that I had. I was a high school Spanish teacher,
Mhm.
but the students had such a hard time reading English
Mm.
that it bothered me to no end. So in my retirement, I began to make books that they could use, any age could use, for phonics, and stories to go along with those that were kind of graduated levels. As the more you learn your phonics, the more you'll be able to read, the more advanced the stories would be. But I never published it.
Mm.
But I did sell it to a few friends, and some homeschoolers took it, and they enjoyed it, but it was just too much. It was too thick. It was too
Right.
much involved. Yeah, it wasn't practical for me to try to publish it.
Right.
So from there, I was saying, well, I can publish the stories.
Hmm.
And that's when I started looking at the stories that I had already written, which have not been published yet, but they're in
Hmm.
the pipeline. And then I thought about the Goose story that
Adventures in Goose Park. Yeah.
yeah, and that came to my mind. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me make a story about them, because it was,
Wonderful.
yeah.
So you have a
So,
whole treasure trove of stories waiting to go basically in this larger volume. And I think that's terrific. And part
yes,
of your purpose when you're having kids explore Kiko's adventures is to inspire critical thinking and problem solving, right?
absolutely. Absolutely. Because that seems to be lacking in many classrooms today.
Yep.
And and I've noticed we try to help the students, we're trying to model for them, we're trying to admonish them, trying to be patient with some of them, with too many of them actually. And at the point, they get to the point where they don't want to hear what you have to say. Yeah, I've heard it before, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, my mom said it too, and all of that. And they don't want to listen. But do you know they'll listen when you tell stories?
Yep.
And it's just like looking at a movie. They're involved. I have their attention. So let me read a story. Okay.
Yeah.
And that story has a moral to it. And so
Exactly.
after reading it, because I read Goose Park, even to a sixth grade class. Now they're much more advanced than the reading level in my book.
Mhm.
I read the first chapter. I said, I just want you to tell me what you think of it, because I just published it and I need your opinion. So therefore, they, oh, fine, yeah, we'll listen. One little girl, after reading it, got really quiet. And she's the kind of boisterous type, the life of the party type person. She was really quiet. And then she looked over to her friend and said, am I like Tonka? And the girl said, yep, you sure is.
That's funny. That's funny. If they're seeing
It was
themselves in
so
the characters
funny.
of your book, that's a great thing. And
Yes.
it's wonderful after all your years of being a teacher, you're still teaching. How many books do you have published? Is this the first published one, or
This
tell
is
us a little bit about your career
yeah.
as a
This
writer?
is my first published book.
Hmm.
And I have others. I have a lot of stories on teacherspayteachers.com that people can
Hmm.
obtain. And I have part two, which is just sitting on the shelf,
Okay,
waiting to be published. And
great.
it's more dramatic than Adventures in Goose Park.
Okay, awesome. Well, that sounds terrific. I'd imagine it would be a dream to someday see Adventures in Goose Park turned into like an animated cartoon for children. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Oh, I would love that beyond anything.
yeah.
And I think it would be perfect for that, you
Hmm.
know, yeah, an animated venue, because it is, the conversation is so animated,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of packed action there. And I didn't write it in a narrative form.
Hmm.
It's more conversational.
Yeah.
There's lots of dialogue, which would make it easy to turn into a
Oh, sure.
animated feature. Yeah.
That'd be great. So you've done the first hard part, which is putting the work out there. Hopefully it lines up in the right person's hand or the right company's hand. So
I hope so.
Hulu, Disney, Nickelodeon, this
Yes.
would be a great story because it's got some fun involved, it's got some characters involved that are unique, and it's got some great messages for children, without a doubt. Before we leave you today, just wanted to ask you, what do you hope that kids take away from Adventures in Goose Park when they read it or have it read to them by their parents?
That's a great question. I'm really hoping that they'll consider the characters that the geese are playing, the characterizations, and the problems that they cause when they just don't consider what they're saying to someone or what they're doing, or they're not considering what are the repercussions for not listening to those who know better.
Absolutely
Because,
great. Go
yeah.
ahead. I'm sorry.
Or I was going to say that this is something that where children are living every day.
Yeah.
And so the experiences of the geese reflect that. So I'm hoping that there will be a connection, between the
Exactly.
children and the characters.
I think so. I think it's a great book. It's got great lessons, great values for children to learn. It is called Adventures in Goose Park by Debra Adams. It is a heartwarming story that follows Kiko, the valiant leader of a flock of Canadian geese, as they face challenges in their breeding grounds. This is a tale about leadership, teamwork, and resilience, and it is just perfect for young readers. Deborah, thank you so much for joining me here today on Spotlight.
Thank you so much, Logan. I really enjoyed it.
I enjoyed speaking with you as well. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.